Lots of people believe they know Pedro.
Are you the daddy of the internet? What's internet daddy?
Me.
Yeah, you are.
But this funny guy mask actually hides a complicated, traumatized person, a man who has his own skeletons in the closet. What is the obscure story behind the actor's family? What does his charming smile hide? Let's shed some light on the dark side of Pedro Pascal.
I have a message for you.
Let's go.
Life has challenged Pedro from his very childhood. Jose Pedro Balmaceda Pascal was born in Chilean Santiago in one of the most difficult times of all, Augusto Pinochet's military dictatorship.
I was born in Santiago, Chile, that's
And
right.
then you were raised, though, in the United
I
States.
was raised in the United States. My parents became political refugees when I was just a baby.
Wow.
Yes, let's get dark about that.
Pedro's parents were vehement members of the opposition in Chile who could have been subjected to political repressions at any moment. There was only one way to survive. They had to flee the country. Pedro is still very grateful for the asylum the family managed to get in the US. They offered us political asylum in Denmark, and shortly after they received a job offer in the US. For that reason, that opportunity, I grew up here. That is the power of our culture. People from all over the world come to this country to offer their skills. The childhood of the future beloved TV star was an indication that their story would evolve into a decent action thriller with survival horror and detective elements.
Like I was like 6 years old and I saw First Blood.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, there he is, like sewing his arm up as the blood pours down, and learning how to
Wow. What other
hunt
movies?
human beings.
What?
Only in the US could Pedro's family finally provide their kids with a proper education, normal life, and a feeling of safety and security.
My parents were really cool. They were young and figuring stuff out, and that meant taking us to the movies like 3 times a week, whatever they wanted to see.
Pedro's parents instilled his love for cinematography and determined his life path in many ways. This guy had been literally daydreaming about an actor's career his whole life, and it was another relocation that helped his dream come true.
We moved from Texas to California, and I was going still with this sort of like deluded fantasy of wanting to be an actor, and knowing that if we were moving to Southern California, that was like just one big giant leap towards Hollywood. And my mom was like, I'll find you something like at the local community theater.
In a new city and a new environment, Pedro found like-minded people surprisingly quickly and learned to party hard.
They were a little badass and snuck me a cigarette and we got caught. That kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It's starting to get with the theater kids, you know, the rebels.
The dream came true. Pedro Pascal started his journey in cinematography, and as soon as he turned 18, he set off to New York where he enrolled in the legendary Tisch School of the Arts. It was the beginning of his independent life. He had to work as a janitor and a waiter, which wasn't always easy.
I was a waiter for about 7 years, and it started early. I got fired from, I don't know, maybe upwards of like 20 to 30 restaurants in New York City within those 7 years.
Even then, finding work was never easy for him.
I look like a white kid, and my first name was Pedro. And so that didn't really gel with parts on Law and Order or roles in plays for a lot of people. So I always needed that person to think beyond this kind of, I guess, cultural stereotypes and typecasting to give me a shot.
Prejudice was all too present for Pedro, pushing him so far as to change his name to Alexander.
It wasn't right for me. And there was a sense of, there was like a kind of a shadow of discomfort to that entire year until I just changed it back to Pedro.
Soon, his year-long worries about name changes seemed completely unimportant. Pedro's father was charged with a serious crime. Mr. Balmaceda was a famous doctor who implemented innovative infertility treatment methods in his practice. In 1995, he and his colleagues were accused of stealing egg cells and embryos from patients and implanting them to the other women without their informed consent. Moreover, in Balmaceda's medical clinic, numerous financial frauds were exposed. Lawsuits were countless, so Pedro's father decided to escape criminal prosecution by returning to Chile. He had been hiding there up until very recently. Still, the actor has always been proud of his parents, even through the hard times.
They were so brave, and without them, I wouldn't be here in this wonderful country. And I certainly wouldn't be standing here with you all tonight.
However, this whole thing was not the worst in their life. 4 years after the lawsuits, when young Pedro Pascal was just 24, his mother had reached her limit. Constant stress, persecutions, and being separated from her kids in the US, Pedro's mother took her own life.
Every moment that you're like, that can't be real, that can't have happened.
This was more than a tragedy. She was always incredibly supportive, never a stage mom. I always felt like she knew something that I didn't. None of my success would be real if it weren't for her. Losing the most important person in your life, discovering that something like this is possible and that what you fear most in life can happen, is an unexplainable and permanent moment. There is a before and an after her death. Pedro nowadays never comments about what happened, about how he went through being separated from his father, about the death of his mother. Those times are behind him. The actor can now meet his dad more often. Since Balmaceda regained his right to enter the US, Pedro still considers him innocent. My father didn't do anything bad. It seems his mother's death had influenced Pedro's life in many ways. He changed his name again, proudly taking his mother's last name, Pascal, and also doesn't let women get too close to him. Judge for yourself. He is 47 years old and has never been married. Moreover, there was not a single time when either told by the actor himself or some paparazzi could confirm he dated a girl or a guy. Pedro has numerously been wishfully match-made with Maria Dizia, Sarah Paulson, Lily Rabe, Robin Tunney, and even his Game of Thrones partner Lena Headey. None of these alleged relationships have ever been verified. All the ladies turned out to simply be Pedro's friends. Will this handsome guy still stay single? Has he really been all alone this whole time? Or is he just way better at keeping secrets than me? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments.
Developing human connection is not key to survival.
At a moment like this, when all the problems come crashing into your life, when the family is hit with death and sorrow, any person can break, any person can give up and waste their life away. But it seems it's just not Pedro Pascal's way of doing things. His mom wanted him to be an actor, and that's why he would come back to the US and become one, conquering all the heights he ever dreamed of. There was no way to give up, and he never did. Now everyone points out the incredible talent to this guy. Pedro finally found a consistent job at an off-Broadway theater and consequently started receiving real acting job offers. Did you know he actually appeared in Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I still feel like carrying around a security blanket.
Of human bondage. Have you ever read it?
Oh, I'm not really into porn. I mean, I'm trying to cut way back.
After Buffy, Pedro gained a foothold as a supporting actor in many different shows. However, he couldn't break through that typecast for almost 15 years.
I even played 2 different characters on Law & Order. Tito Cabasa, who looked like this. And 1 year later, I played Reggie Luckman, who looked like this. And that, my friends, is called range.
Only at 39, he finally got his lucky ticket.
It is a big and beautiful world. Most of us live and die in the same corner where we were born and never get to see any of it. I don't want to be most of us.
In 2014, the 4th season of Game of Thrones was released, in which one of the main roles was given to the not-so-well-known actor, Pedro Pascal. And that was a real discovery.
I will be your champion.
He was the greatest Oberyn Martell, whether it was a group sex scene or his own death. When the character had his eyes crushed into his skull with his bare hands, it was one of the best death scenes in the show.
You played Oberyn Martell in Game of Thrones. Did you ever find that show to be a bit of an eyesore?
Do I have to answer that? I found it to be a double eyesore.
And if you've seen Game of Thrones, you know that's saying a lot. Pedro Pascal only stayed on Game of Thrones for 1 season, but this season turned out to be a catapult to the stars.
Big in, big out.
Yeah.
From this moment, he started his way of portraying a masculine macho and a rescuing hero.
I've never seen a career like this.
I have nothing to do with it.
Yes, you do! How do you pick shows that are going to be giant hits?
The door opens and you're like,
No way. Let me jumping in.
He would next appear in Narcos. In Wonder Woman 1994, he worked together with Nicolas Cage on The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, and that experience is always an extraordinary one.
Who's more eccentric, the fictional Nick Cage or the real Nicolas Cage?
I think it would oscillate between the fictional and the real. Quite often, you get lost between the two.
As you can see, Pedro likes to make jokes about his fellow actors, but he is way too cruel to make it personal. Unlike the character for Dishonored 2 he voiced, Paolo, if Pedro was a fortune teller, he might have known that that was a sign. The world of video games would catch up with him again later, bringing the success he couldn't even imagine. But for now, it was just a voiceover.
That's a bad place. You walk by some nights, you feel the hairs on your neck standing up.
Meanwhile, again, Pedro Pascal attracted a role in extremely popular projects. This time, it was the universe of Star Wars: The Mandalorian.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Pedro Pascal became a face which brings the money. The actor's career peak, at least so far, occurred in 2023. It happened thanks to the main role in The Last of Us. Wonderful, unbelievable, phenomenal, mind-blowing. Critics praise The Last of Us as the project has simply blown up the industry. The eye of this storm, again, is Pedro Pascal and his stunning duo with Bella Ramsey.
I don't think I've ever read such good reviews for a television show. I mean, they're rapturous.
Right now, Pedro Pascal is one of the most sought-after actors in Hollywood. Women simply adore him. In 2020, he was called one of the sexiest men in the world.
In 2020, you were named as one of People magazine's sexiest men alive. Can you give us your sexiest look?
He actually likes to entertain himself by reading what fans write about him on social media. A little bit of narcissism never hurts anybody.
You're also very active with fans on Twitter. Do you search for your name?
Yes!
With the status Pedro Pascal has, one might think he must be collecting celebrities' broken hearts and fighting paparazzi wherever he goes. But it's not like that at all. No matter how hard people tried to dig up fuck-ups in his biography, it stayed spotless. No drug scandals, no drunken outages, no divorces with divisions of property, not even a single fight. Ugh, he could take some lessons from Johnny Depp and Robert Downey Jr., although with drugs it might not be as certain.
No, I've never done drugs.
He's lying.
Maybe that's just the essence of who Pedro Pascal is. He is simply cool, always staying his kind and funny self. That is his biggest talent. He's just enjoying everything that's happening around him.
I mean, because, like I say, you've been in the business for a long time, are you enjoying all this sudden attention?
Yeah. Pedro Pascal stays his joyful self despite his dark past. He managed to carry the love and delight through all the hardships while losing the closest people. In the end, he's just a man with a charming smile on his face. Kind, honest, simply a nice guy. The guy who millions love. The guy whose smile hides the pain and anguish of a complicated life. What do you think about Pedro Pascal? Is he really as great as they say? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below.
Because when you're like me, it doesn't matter what they say.
We'll come back to you soon with more stories about other remarkable persons on our channel, Personalist.